Hello and welcome back. My name is Dave and today, 1,000 Yard Stare. It's a World War II film where it's based in Africa. When the Americans invaded, I suppose is a bit of a harsh word, landed in Africa. It sort of revolves around that sort of story of a gentleman named Roland, or Rollins. It's quite difficult to understand who he is and who the rest of the cast are because there's very little dialogue or very little script in this whole film. It's an interesting film. Now it starts off a bit slow. It goes a lot of back and forwards, skipping timelines. It goes from being, I think, 1950s, mid-50s, then go back to 1944, I think it is. Then it's sort of, give me a minute, I need to rearrange my lighting. It goes back and forth between different timelines, and from 1950s to 1944, 45, and it's a bit, it's a low budget film, so you get that sort of low budget sort of way it works, the casting, the acting, the way it's filmed. It's very, I like the way it's filmed. Sometimes it's got a loose hand where the camera's all over the place, and then you've got a really steady sort of camera, giving that sort of different shots. Some of the transitions are nice between scenes. One moment you got Roland's back, I think, is striking a match, and as he strikes it, it goes to a big explosion, sort of flares back in World War II. It's the way it works. Sometimes it's quite nice, but in other times it's a bit. You need a bit more pace to it, I think. It lacks a bit. The story revolves around Rollins, and he has sort of a condition where it's psychological, sort of it's an alternative version of sort of shell shock, where the mental state is not quite there. His mind flickers back and forth to like the explosions, the gunfights, the horribleness about what's happened to him, and it affects him in his current life, where he's trying to be like a writer. He's trying to write his book, and he's a writer for a paper, I think he is. And it sort of affects his family life, because one minute he comes back and he's with his wife and kid, his son. And then later on you get to see him split up from his wife, who she believes there's something wrong with him but can't help him. But I don't think she understands why, because it doesn't really explain why. It's just, you see her moved out in a few flash-ons sort of thing, and it's very difficult to put together at the start, but then later on you get the gist of what's happening. And then later on in the film, he sorts himself out. He quits drinking and quits. I don't know. He can't quit what he's feeling. So I don't know how it ends or how they come to a conclusion in the ending, because everything turns out alright, and he gets back with his missus again, who lives in a separate place. But in the meantime, he's a total wreck, total mess. But there's this guy who turns up to the door in the 1950s, it says, with a box, because they give out the rations, I suppose. I know rationed in America, but rationed sort of thing, and has like the bloke reads off a list. Oh, we've got some cans of this, cans of that, and it's like 16 bottles of liquor or something. I was like, what? Can you not see this bloke's got an alcohol problem? Well done. I think he must order this stuff for some way, but yeah. Anyway, they're at the battle, Catherine Pass, and basically the battle revolves around there. Is why he's a bit psychologically in the head sort of thing. The Germans, it's a very low budget film, so you got a very low budget sort of attacking sort of way it works, but the way it's filmed's not too bad. The Germans sort of come over the tanks and sort of blow the hell out of the Americans who are trying to hold this area, although not very well, because they seem to be very disorganised and very fallen back in this, there and that way. But then later on, Rollins gets separated and gets captured by a couple of Germans and gets marched around and kicked a little bit, pissed on, that sort of thing. And one of the Germans take a liking to him, where the other one doesn't. Of course, it's always the officer that doesn't take the liking. Anyway, take him back to the German camp, and hold him there. The German that he saves helps him pretty much almost escape, until the officer comes on and tries to fight him, and then the Americans turn up and shoot the German officer, and yeah, The filters used in this film not particularly amazing. Some of them are quite questionable at times, where the dust or the smoke comes into the screen, but then Roland's never reacts. No one reacts to the smoke. It's just like nothing's happened. Germans attack the Americans. The tanks roll in, and for some reason they used a strange filter where it makes it look like there's a lot of heat. You get the heat sort of filter. It looks absolutely terrible. Okay, they try and make it a little bit more realistic in some way by giving some kind of heat, but then none of the rest of the film sort of has it. It's just that sort of battle sequence that sort of has it in places, and that sort of fake smoke rolling in. But I do like the effect where Roland is walking through sort of the battlefield where the screen is all black and white filter they've added, and he's walking through, and all his men sort of like either like running, well, it's still a freeze frame, and he's walking through and all like just stood there. It looks really good. The shadows really good, and the way that's sort of filmed nicely, but kind of has no relevance to much at all, really, because I don't know where they sort of place that into the genre, into the timeline of film, because it seems to be something they've added in afterwards and doesn't seem to make sense. It works well as a film if they didn't keep going backwards and forward so much. It's very busy. Yeah, low budget film, but still, when it took a long time for 20 minutes to go by, let's put it that way, but once the 20 minutes are done and the film started rolling, you start to get into it a bit more, it's fine. And the characters you can't really connect to as such, because there's no real, you don't know who they are, you don't know where they're from, who they are and what they do. They're just there. It makes sense. It's sort of like, it's difficult. It's only Roland's the main character, but even then you can't really connect to him because there's nothing to connect to. There's very little, and yeah, like I said, script wise, it's more of the actual sequences they're focusing on, the way it seems. Then later on, Roland's at a meal with a couple of fellow colleagues and wives, and of course the kids go out to play with the dog. Well, the girl comes back in, bitten on her arm, nice bite mark, and of course everyone goes, "Oh no, the dog bit me, oh, get rabies." Anyway, so Roland goes outside, and I'll let the imagination, think. Then he has to tidy up the mess he's made. So, damn shame on the dog. I don't know what happened. I don't know if the kid did something to the dog or what, but it seems to not work very well. So, for the dog. So, but no, it's an enjoyable film. Once it gets going, low budget, not bad, I suppose. I can see it's working for a few people. If you like a low budget film, don't want too much of an action, but the explosion's quite nice, and the gunshots are pretty good. All looks, sounds pretty good. So yeah, I give this 6 out of 10. So it's pretty, not bad. So yeah, thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye bye.